How's it going, everyone, and welcome to another episode of No Excuses on PGProductions.com and YouTube.com. The favorite show hosts are still
Venerian.
And Volatile, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary for the week. And today is Anzac Day, the day when Australians and New Zealanders, I think you have the same Anzac Day, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. We honour the fallen soldiers who fought to prevent us being, ruled by the Japanese, I guess.
Is this your equivalent of Veterans Day?
Basically, yeah.
One of, yeah. We have
And of course-
Anzac Day and we have Memorial Day in November.
In New Zealand, we celebrate Anzac Day by spitting on our traditional allies and cozying up with the yellow bear. So, yeah, apparently.
Winnie the Pooh. Winnie the Pooh. Chubby
Yeah.
little commie all stuffed. Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, please do. There is actually quite a lot of salt flying around on that front over this side of the Tasman too.
There's quite a lot of salt flying around over here on it because it seems like it was just a unilateral thing proclaimed by Her Highness Princess Cindy.
Ugh.
So, yeah, because that doesn't actually represent the will of the New Zealand people. She's just a fascist, so she can do what she wants. But, yeah. So yeah, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, and you can post memes and talk to the hosts in real time, and apparently bond with Missing No over VTubers, which was happening yesterday. But yeah. You can find the link to that in the description underneath the archive of the show on YouTube.
Those VTubers are insidious. They are everywhere.
Yeah, I would have happily joined you in that discussion. I was just too dead this week, like usual.
So, on
Yeah.
the stream today, I'm playing a bit of Foundation, which is a very, very chill village building simulator. It's got a couple of unique features on it. It is still early access because, of course, it is. Such games such as these seem to never come out of early access, even when they're feature complete. I'll go Valley, I think, this time. Largely that they wanted to go for a more organic village kind of building situation. So you plop your industries down and designate where those are built. But civilian houses are all just organically grown once you zone them. Which means you can be as fastidious as you want with your industries, but the peasants will just go wherever they want because peasants are untidy.
When you say organically grown, do you actually grow the houses?
Kind of. They do pop up like
Yeah, sound
mushrooms.
like you know.
Where am I going to start? This is a very weird map, actually. Haven't looked at this one yet. Over here's a good spot, I guess. Is there stone? There is not stone. Here's a bad spot. So yeah, it's a fun little time killer. It's probably a bit pricey for what it actually is.
How much are they asking for it?
I think it's about $40 at full price. 40 Australia bucks. Which is quite pricey. So yeah, I'm just gonna hang on a minute. There's the stone in there. Why is it in there? Okay, so I'm just going to poke around with this during the show and hopefully not get everybody killed. Although,
Wait, you said 40 Australian bucks?
yes.
It's 37 New Zealand bucks. Our currency's worth less than yours.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there.
I guess Steam's database might be out of date for values of currency.
Possibly it has happened in
Our
the past.
currency is worth less than the Australian dollar 99.99% of the time.
Yeah, here it is. It is actually, 43 Australia bucks. What is going on? What is this heresy? You are looking at the base edition, not the edition with the soundtrack.
The base edition is $36.99 and the soundtrack edition is $41.12.
What the actual hell, Steam? Actually, it's probably not Steam, it'd be the developers.
Is there
Wait,
Australia tax or something?
I guess. But normally if there's an Australia tax, there's a New Zealand tax.
Maybe it's a New Zealand discount because the game's full of sheep.
Maybe. It is actually full of sheep. Hang on.
May.
May.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just check something right here. Let me see. Can I actually find the developer's website? Which is Polymorph. I think I can think of a reason why.
Because they just hate Straya.
Also, yes.
Right.
No, they're French. That actually is... That can't be right. That's not spelt correct. Polymorph Games.
This is ticking you off rather a lot.
It's a mystery and I must solve it. Let's see. Polymorph Games. The actual Polymorph Games, not the French ones. Where are they?
I guess I can.
There's a publisher weekend for Koei Tecmo.
No, the
I'm
Canadian. There you
tempted to
go.
I'm tempted to buy a bunch of games from the Steam sale, but I know that if I do, I won't have time to play them, so it would be a really bad idea for me to do so.
It usually is.
But they are the publisher for Gust's games, and I love Gust's games. It's just not enough to sink a huge amount of time into them because I love the Art and Alico games the most, and they are not on PC, and may in fact never make it to PC at the rate they're going.
Yep.
What's the name of the game y'all are looking at again?
Foundation.
Oh, he's looking at Foundation, yeah. How much is it in
$30.
Greenback?
$30 in American dollars.
So the Australia version is more expensive because reasons. Right.
Because of French.
Well, French Canadian.
That's okay. The radar government printed money during the last coup last year. I imagine it won't be long until we catch up to you and how bad our dollar is worth.
I think Pim said that the French, like French view Canadian French as sort of like hillbillies.
Yeah, I've heard that one. But to be fair, the French seem to view everybody as hillbillies.
That's true.
So, yeah, gotta love them stereotypes.
The French made the metric system.
They did.
I don't know if they made all of it, but I do know that they have the kilogram, for instance.
Yeah.
Like the kilogram. Because the kilogram doesn't actually have a physical referent in terms of absolute constants. Instead, there is a thing called the kilogram, which is retained in France, if I recall correctly.
Yep. Same with the meter.
They actually worked one out for the meter, I think.
Yeah, I think they did.
Some particular multiple of the distance across some atom to some degree of probability or something like that. Like there's some really ridiculously complex definition that's tied to some physical constant, which is what they normally go for, except there isn't one for the kilogram.
Not a coherent one that they've managed to drag up anyway. There's been attempts. Oh dear,
Yeah.
dear.
Good luck with that. It's about as likely as switching the US over to the metric system.
The US is very slowly switching to the US metric system as it is, but you have this strange fascination of using very strange things to measure things anyway.
Like barrels.
Or washing machines.
Or one Rhode
No,
Island.
but like you literally instituted the measure of barrels for oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if I recall, is simply the most common size of cask that was being manufactured at the time the oil boom started.
Yeah. So instead of
Pretty
measuring it
much.
in litres or gallons or something sensible, it's just barrels.
That's okay. Anything really big we measure in cars usually. Anything truly astronomical, it's aircraft carriers.
Yeah, like if you're talking in for galactic objects or extrasolar objects, sometimes I've just seen suns.
Yeah. I mean, we're big on reference measurements in the US.
Yes, you are.
But there's no table that you can look up to work out, like, for instance, how many aircraft carriers does the sun weigh? How many cars does an aircraft carrier weigh? How many washing machines does a car weigh?
Yeah, like you can see that you can go down the circular logic. It's like, how much does the sun weigh? Oh, it's like 20,000 Earths. Okay, how much does Earth weigh? Like 5 million aircraft carriers. I'm just pulling numbers.
I've seen blue whales as well.
I've seen blue whales.
I've seen blue whales.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally only the sciencey types use blue whales because that's more of a formal form of measurement, apparently.
What?
That's what
not.
passes for formal.
I refuse to believe that.
I've never seen a regular everyday Joe use blue whales as their metric for measuring anything.
Oh dear.
Whales.
What madness is this? Anyway, what were we doing?
What
So
are we talking about?
My week has basically been more Monster Hunter because it's also been Drunk Cowboys again, but that's a universal concept.
I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to wonder if there's ever a time where it isn't Drunk Cowboy season because
Not anymore.
It
It
seems
seems like
that-
yeah, it used to be that you'd see the Drunk Cowboys show up maybe once every couple of months for a big event, and then they disappear again and leave us alone. Now they're
Yeah,
constant.
when you said Drunk Cowboy seasons before, I was thinking, oh, this is a thing that happens like maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah,
But no, it always is Drunk Cowboy season.
it is always Drunk Cowboy season now. It used to be maybe 5 or 6 times a year. You get really
It's-
bad Drunk Cowboy days.
It's like my tax season. Every day is tax season.
Every day is tax season.
from how far afield are they coming to go and be drunk in your town?
Anyway, a radius of about 600 kilometers.
That's quite a bit.
It is when you're thinking in terms of North Australia, I guess.
Well, I'm not really thinking in terms of not Australia. I'm thinking about how far I would be willing to go to get to the pub.
Yeah. In this case, it's like you've got between us and whatever station these people are on, there's literally nothing. So yeah. But yeah. Anyway, everyone's kind of really, really sick of it at the moment. Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be a
Cowboys?
solution to these lunatics that doesn't involve some sort of sorcery.
Well, they bring money.
No, they don't, though.
You could
But
put them in
the-
camps.
They bring money, but they destroy things. So you end up with negative money at the end, which is why people are really sick of them.
So basically, it's like they get their pay packet, they bring it here to use their pay packet they bring it to your place to bring it to use their pay packet to get drunk. They break all of the stuff and then they disappear before the bill comes in.
Yep. That's how it works. So, anywho, we should probably talk a bit of Monster Hunter.
All right.
All right.
Sorry, I'm also trying to sneak in lunch when no one's looking. So, welcome home Monster Hunter this week has been switching weapons up. Like, I love the Hunting Horn. Hunting Horn is ridiculously good and it honestly feels broken and overpowered. So, I changed it up and decided to give the Switch Axe a go. And that is also proving to be a lot of fun. It just feels
Yes,
like it
it
flows
re-
very well.
It's become a lot more popular. Like it was starting to really pick up a lot of popularity towards the latter end of World's Run. I think it was because it was a weapon that most people had passed over as being sort of like an inferior version of the Charge Blade. For the longest time, and then when everybody got sick of the Charge Blade, and the Charge Blade apparently took a few hits to its ridiculously overwhelming power in Iceborne, and then people started picking up the Switch Axe as the next one along. It was starting to really pick up popularity towards the end there. So apparently, a lot of people found it really fun. It's like, why wasn't I using this one instead of using the Charge Blade?
Yeah, there is something really satisfying about getting the complete combo off where you swing a few times with your axe, transition into the sword, smack it a few times to build up the energy, then transition into the element burst. Particularly the high-powered one where you climb onto the monster's face and just cling on while they do whatever. It is incredibly satisfying to pull that off. Thing is, though, playing the Monster Hunter, the Hunting Horn in Rise, you tend not to worry about sharpness very much. And that's come back with a vengeance. particularly the element burst on the charge axe uses. Oh, sorry, the switch axe uses a lot of power and a lot of sharpness. So usually you only get to pull that one combo off before you're climbing on your dog to run around sharpening. Incidentally, anyone who actually doesn't sharpen while on dog back is doing it wrong, because there's no penalty for just jumping on the dog and running around while sharpening.
There is a penalty, and the penalty is that you're running along and then you realise that you haven't picked up any of the stuff you thought you were picking up as you were riding past.
There is that. So, yeah. I do love the new Monster Hunter, the monster riding system, even if it does feel a bit overpowered.
Yeah, it feels overpowered, but it also feels gimmicky to me. Like, I was like, this is not really Monster Hunter. Like, it feels to me like a feature that was included for people who don't really want to play Monster Hunter somehow. Like, because you're not doing the fighting anymore. You're just hopping on a monster and basically almost just mashing buttons and hoping that you're going to get a good outcome.
Yeah. Like, there is actually a logic to it.
I can tell that there is a logic to it. It's just that that logic is a little bit flimsy. And honestly, I would rather... I wasn't happy with the mounting system as it was, because just hitting the one damage button over and over again just felt like, why am I doing this? This is really weird.
Here's this arcane thingy that's supposed to tell you your grip, but doesn't.
Yeah, but I think that this is the mounting system in Rise is maybe a little bit too far the other way.
Yeah,
it basically changes the game that you're playing.
Yeah. Like, I think it is, particularly power-wise, it's too far the other way. But on the other hand, it is fun, which the other system wasn't. So I will cut it a bit of slack on that regard.
I feel like I'm not being obeyed most of the time when I'm writing those things.
Yeah, there's a bit
and
of that.
Also, there seems to be quite a bit of randomness to what type of ability you actually get out when you press a button.
It's all based on the direction of the stick you're pushing.
Right. Where is that written down?
It's not. And that's Monster Hunter. So yeah, there's a whole lot of little systems and things that, again, Rise doesn't tell you. It's about on par with World as to what it tells you, which is still better than the old school games. For example, the Switch Axe, once you get your second Wirebug skill, which is sort of a vertical slash that you can then chain into a tethered downward slash. At no point does it tell you can actually combo that off the full-powered elemental burst. So when you get flicked up in the air from that, you can activate that ability and do the downward slash anyway. So I actually only found that after watching a video on it.
So run that by me again, because it probably applies to the Greatsword as well.
Probably, yeah. So some Wirebug abilities behave a little bit differently or can be comboed off other abilities. Hunting Horn, from what I can tell, none of them do that. But yeah, the Switch Axe, once you get the second one, which is you tether up and then you come back down again on the same Wirebug, as it turns out, you can execute that mid-air after the elemental burst to perform the second half of that combo.
Hmm.
And because you're already pointed directly at the monster, unless the monster does something like smack you out of the air or just generally run away, you'll almost certainly just come down and hit it with that attack. Which adds extra elemental damage on, by the way.
You know, the Devil May Cry team is literally just down the road. Or just across the hall or something.
Just across the hall, yeah.
Just go ask them, hey, you know how your players aren't confused about what buttons do what? And you have this really nice tutorial area you can just load up and push buttons in, and it'll tell you absolutely everything you can do against whatever enemy you want to spawn in there. How did you make that so we can give our players?
Yeah, the Devil May Cry guys can't get into the Monster Hunter office, though, because the Dragonator's in the way. So...
Yeah, it looks like you can use the second Wirebug move on the Greatsword can be used to skip the first two strikes. You can turn it into a strike which leads straight into the final strike, rather than having to do two. I'm not sure how practical that is, and it's kind of difficult to reliably do on the controller because, but
Yeah.
I don't know. There might be a use to that if I practice it.
Yeah, some things just take practice, and that's fine. I'd be disappointed if they didn't, actually. But, yeah, it's still a lot of fun. I believe in 2 days we're getting a developer stream, which will be telling us what new monsters we get. The 2 monsters that we know we're going to get are Chameleos, which is like Elder Dragon Pookie Pookie. Kind of.
Is that the one that actually goes invisible?
Yes.
Sort of?
Yeah, he's got the full chameleon wear deal going on. And Apex Rathalos, for those who are at Endgame.
I don't even like regular Rathalos.
Regular Rathalos
He's a bully.
is kind of a jerk. Could be worse.
Is there a flavor in this one?
In terms of just Apex power?
Is Azure Rathalos in this game?
No, I don't believe it is.
Because that guy who was also a douche.
Yeah. There don't actually seem to be any subspecies in this game. At least not yet.
I can live with that provided there are enough regular species.
Yeah, so apparently they actually ran out of time when developing World. And they pushed the product out incomplete.
Well, I mean, that doesn't really surprise me, given the sheer amount of extra content that got patched in later.
Yeah, and they've got...
And the amount of, like, obviously incomplete stuff that was in the code that was just never used.
Mm-hmm. So there's a whole bunch of stuff which is coming down the pipe later on. Which, like, incomplete games aren't a new thing, but even Monster Hunter's incomplete game still feels complete.
But there's no Agnactor.
There is no Agnactor. The world needs more clacking. Give us Agnactor, damn it. Like, there's, you've got the baby Agnactors running around, you've got the baby Jagras, you've got the baby Zamtrios running around, but those 3 monsters aren't in the game. Also Jaggy. Although
I don't understand why Zamtrios isn't in the game, considering how long they've had that skeleton.
It shares the same skeleton with Great Jagras. Great Jagras is actually probably based off Zamtrios. In a lot of ways. So I'm not sure why.
And we've also got, another Great Jagras to turn it on.
Kappa Hippo Sumo Chonky Boy.
Yeah. I always keep getting caught out by that foot thing that he does, because just next... Yeah, it comes out quick and it's very broad, so it's very hard to dodge. Like, if you just roll, you're not going to make it.
I haven't had too many problems.
That's the standard method of movement for great sword users, is to just roll.
You just roll. But I haven't had too many problems with it, but usually if he catches you with it, he'll combo into something and then he'll wreck your face.
Yeah, well, the thing is that particular foot stomp is, like, that position where you are immediately to the side of the monster's paw is sort of like, that's my standard attack position as a greatsword.
Yep.
Like that's where I usually start off, because standing in front of a monster's face 9 times out of 10 is a bad idea.
Yes.
Unless you know you can go in and snipe the part break, it's usually a bad idea to just wail on the face. But by the paw, or just behind the paw, usually, is a very safe place on a lot of monsters, except when that monster can use that paw to turn it into an AoE immediately.
So yeah, Kezu exists still, unfortunately.
Kezu is gross.
Kezu is nasty, all kinds of nasty. Although there is an old meme that's popped up again where it's people linking Kezu's theme song to people.
I remember that. I when I didn't know anything about Monster Hunter, I actually got caught by that meme.
Nice.
It's sort of like the Void version of a Rickroll.
It is. The real fun ones are the people who link the 10-hour version.
Yeah, but Kezu is surprisingly, for a monster which is most famous for the silence of his music, is an incredibly noisy beast.
He is.
Like, he screams constantly, and when he's not screaming, you wish he was screaming because you hear all the weird slimy noises he makes.
Yeah. I have to see if I can actually find his original theme song from Monster Hunter 1. The one that got bugged out. Because it is on YouTube somewhere if you dig hard enough. But yeah, it's probably one of the most famous bugs that's been kept in the game is Kezu's soundtrack. because it just works so. Working well is probably not the right term. There seems to be some sort of dark inverse of that.
Anyway, Kezu is gross,
Kezu
and
is
the
gross,
weapons you
horrible.
make from his parts are also gross, and his armor is also gross, and I feel even slightly more grossed out by it, by the fact that the descriptions go out of their way to tell you how nice it feels to wear.
Yes, it's all silky and smooth.
It's just, oh my goodness, that's
That's
horrible.
when it's
Please
not
stop.
saying it's slimy.
Good gravy. I was a bit perturbed to find out that it actually had some things on it that I wanted, and I decided, you know what? I'm not in high rank yet. I can just do without.
It just don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Aknosom set at the moment, which I rather like.
I have found actually with a lot of the sets, particularly once you start to get into high rank, is there's some sets in there which are very obviously built from the ground up for a specific weapon. Which World
I'll take your
kind
word
of
for it.
had. But yeah, like the Kulu set is just global hunting horn all the way through. And it's a very good
Oh, it's got Horn Maestro on it. I mean, you
Horn
don't really have much
Maestro,
choice. at that point.
Slugger, and a bunch of other stuff.
I guess that it makes sense because people do like to wear full sets. They really do. They don't. They usually resent having to combine things that don't match. And if you're going to have Horn Maestro on the gear, the odds that the people using the rest of that set are going to want to use a hunting horn with it are pretty high.
Yeah. So it makes sense that all the other skills on that set match up, which is really nice.
The only thing I think that would be a better way of doing that though is if they had when they recognised that they were doing a set that leaned very heavily into one weapon without being as specific as actually putting a Horn Maestro on there. That they would, I would like if they would like add an extra dual slot, which is like this is the slot that is obviously intended to be used for Horn Maestro, but we're not going to actually waste item budget on putting Horn Maestro on here if you want to use it with a hammer.
Yeah, that's the way a lot of sets used to be. World had a lot of them, and it had a couple of times. Like it was like you had one set which was like blunt weapons, and you could put Horn Maestro in there. Or actually, you need 3 Horn Maestro in World, but yeah, it would work just as well for a hammer. Then you had the other sets where 4 out of 5 pieces were for one set, and then you had some skill which was completely out of left field for no reason on there.
Yeah, it would have like the unsheathing crypt skill or something.
Yeah, on the blunt
some
weapon
weapon
set.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thankfully they seem to have avoided that for the most part. Like, if a set is designed for a weapon, then it'll work really well for that weapon. And some are more specific than others. For example, the what's his name now? The roly-poly anteater thing. Drawing a blank all of a sudden.
Or don't ask me about the names of monsters.
But his set is very much for use with his particular switch axe, but it will also work with the charge blade. Or actually, it will work with any paralysis switch axe or charge blade, but yeah. Pretty useless for everything else, though. It just makes me run around looking like some sort of prehistoric Power Ranger, but anyway, that's Monster Hunter. Beyond that, not a whole lot to tell, really. Still chipping away at the existing animes, although there are a bunch of anime in this season which I haven't been able to find yet without going to Honest Bob's.
Honest Bob's.
Honest Bob's discount anime.
Which ones are you referring to specifically?
The one by the Konosuba writers. I haven't been able to find that on Funimation.
Oh, combatants will be dispatched.
That's the one.
Yeah, it's on Anime Lab.
It is on Anime Lab. I could
Yeah,
not find
except
it.
I think it's been misfiled because they think I'm fairly sure that they're simulcasting it, except it's filed under the ones that are not being simulcast.
That might be where I'm going wrong then.
That is an extremely silly show.
Yes, and I really want to sit down and watch that. As I can't words today. As much criticism as it deserves, I am still enjoying Dragon Ghost House Hunting. It's just proving to be a very chill, very silly show.
I watched another episode of that, and it was. I couldn't get over the fact that the boss ghost guy at the haunted house was Kirei. Like, he just obviously sounded like Kirei, and it wasn't like, oh, well, it's just the voice actor. No, it was the voice actor doing his Kirei voice.
Yeah, except unlike Kirei, this ghost is actually fairly chill. He's a quite a nice guy.
I don't know if I quite go that far.
For a ghoul lord.
Yeah, but I mean, like, the dragon also thought that he sounded like kind of a nice guy, and then he asked how come he was there.
Yeah. This is immediately after the Luigi's Mansion reference. Because, of
Rejoice.
course, it's got to be there.
Rejoice, Jeremiah.
Let's see. I'm just going to check to see that it really is him, rather than
I was about
me
to do
making
that,
a terrible
actually.
mistake. Because now I'm paranoid. But it sounded exactly like Kirei, so...
Let's see.
Come on.
Oh, great
my browser's
internet.
locked.
Tell us your secrets.
The browser's locked up. Great. Here we go.
Can't do this because this
Virgin
game seems to be doing very strange things when I tab out.
What's the name of the show?
A dragon goes house hunting.
I just looked up the actor. Let's see. Is he on the list? I don't see it on the list.
Let's see.
Maybe it's not him.
Uh,
I could be mistaken.
let's see. IMDb. Let's see. Release date. Where is the...
Maybe I'm wrong.
Let's see. Joji Nakata. Shows. I don't see it.
IMDb does not seem to have the cast list on here. That's... Okay, maybe Mal will have it.
No,
Anyway.
Behind the Voice Actors doesn't have it either, so...
Yeah.
I'm no idea.
I don't really want to go to Anime News Network.
No, for obvious reasons. Right. What else have I been watching? Still going on Hero Arca. They've definitely settled into their groove on this new arc.
Shonen is doing a competition arc. Gasp.
So there's not really a whole lot to tell about it, honestly. It's just more Hero Arca. That's the way it tends to go with a lot of shonen.
Oh, we're finally getting some meta questions answered. I watched a little bit of it.
Yeah. I still want to know what the deal is up with the old bird brain guy. Not the one in the class. I'm trying to remember his actual hero name now, but I can't remember it because I'm bad today.
What does he do?
He's the wing hero.
Oh, Hawks?
That's him.
Yeah, he's playing like double, triple, quadruple agent or something.
He's got something along those lines going on.
Yeah.
And the guy tends to come across just as kind of greasy.
They go a little bit into his backstory right after he's introduced at the start of the season.
Yeah, but they seem to have skipped a few steps.
Yeah. Or the better, more interesting thing is they're finally answering meta questions about One for All and All for One. And the history of that family and that power specifically, and what the heck it even does.
Who are these weird ghosty people who keep popping up?
Yeah, so they're finally getting around to that. Only took them 4.5 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have I been watching? I don't know why, but I'm still watching the new season of the Zombie Idol show. Zombieland Saga. I don't like idol shows though, but I like this for some reason.
I like idol shows, but I don't like zombie shows, so I haven't been watching it.
I tend to not. Anything with zombies normally just goes immediately into the ignore pile. But I don't know. There's just something about this show. It's just kind of wholesome in a way, but also ridiculously hammy.
Well, they're Idarus. It's in their contract that they have to be wholesome.
Yeah,
unless it's part of their character that they're not.
This is the law, or something.
Yeah,
Unless-
I'm pretty sure that it's not in Marine's contract that she has to be wholesome.
Yeah.
Well, we all know Yagu's dream is dead, so
Well, Coco's also not terribly wholesome.
Coco
Although it's sort of
helped kill
hard
it.
to tell how much of that is actually her forcing herself, though, because she does seem to get embarrassed at odd things.
Hmm. I seem to have been forgetting half a dozen things on this game. There we go.
Well, even if it's not, she managed to corrupt everybody else, so she did her job. Did more than her share of work in killing Yagu's dream.
So, yeah. That's pretty much my week. It's been a rather dull one, honestly.
Yeah.
So, Vol, what you been up to?
It's been a bit of a busy week at work again. Lots of late nights because of lots of people calling in sick, which happens more often the fewer staff we get and causes more problems the fewer staff we have. But I have been slowly plugging away at Monster Hunter Rise wherever I have a spare moment. I even took my Switch to work so that I could, whomp a Kizu on my lunch break sort of thing. But I've been proceeding at a rate of like 1 or maybe 2 hunts per evening, so I haven't made a lot of progress. I was just so happened that I had been very, very nearly at the end of the current FGO event when I got my Switch, so I haven't really needed to play FGO since I got it, so I've been able to devote more focus to Monster Hunter. But yeah, I like a lot of things about it. Most of the things that are different from World, though, I prefer the World approach very, very slightly, but not by much. Like I think that I would rather have the World paradigm pre-Iceborne for mounting rather than the wire bug marionetting thing in Rise or the excessive clutch claw abuse that's in Iceborne. Like I think it was most stable in its most vanilla form, but also its most boring. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that mounting thing. It seems to, I don't know, it feels a bit contrived to me. The way that rather than having turf wars, which were cool when they happened, well, at least I thought they were.
Yeah.
Rather than having turf wars, two monsters will arrive in an area, and when they see each other, they will sort of go out of their way to put the other one in a mountable state or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, I think Penny Arcade did a comic about it, about how it seemed a bit like pantomime.
Mm-hmm. Actually, the turf wars are still there, as it turns out.
I have never seen one.
Yeah, I've only seen it once, but I'm not sure what the criteria for them to actually do a proper turf war is, and instead of them going into just smack them till they're mountable.
Because the thing is that because of the smack them till they're mountable, they basically not strictly, but basically monsters don't fight each other anymore. Has been my experience. And that builds on something else that I feel is lacking in Rise compared to World, in that none of the monsters feel like they live in the area, they just feel like they're wandering around waiting to be fought.
They're just kind of there for the most part, yeah.
World spent a lot of effort making the monsters look like part of their ecology.
Mm-hmm.
And in Rise, I just don't get that feeling. I don't know if it's just because the arenas are simpler and they don't have as much sort of depth of detail that the superior hardware World was designed for allows, but I really do feel like the monsters feel a bit more out of place than they used to. That varies between monsters. Like some monsters, like they seem to fit better on certain maps. For instance, like Bishaten works really well on the Shrine Ruins map.
Yes.
I think that he fits into that area very well, and I think that's partly because he's a fruit-eating monkey basically, and he is in a forest eating fruit and hanging from things. It seems like a more natural habitat for him, but Other things like what's a good example? I suppose like the generic bear, what's his name, Azeros. Like he
Arzuros,
just
yeah.
feels like he's just pointlessly wandering around. Like he'll just wander down the road.
Yeah.
Like they don't feel like they belong in a place the way that in World they did, where a monster would stop by the waterside to drink, or they'd stop by a tree and eat some fruit off of it, or they would do things interacting with the environment other than just walking around.
Mm-hmm.
And Rise doesn't seem to have nearly as much of that.
Yeah, it stepped back into the old way of doing things on that front. Like, old games, they did make an effort to make sure the monsters all kind of fit, but World just really kicked it up a notch. Several
Yeah,
notches,
like
actually.
I felt a lot more in World like I was actually hunting a monster in its natural environment rather than engaging an enemy in battle, which is more what it feels like in Rise.
Yeah.
Um,
So Rise is definitely a
and,
step backwards there.
yeah, and I don't know if that's just a hardware limitation because there's a lot of fine-grained detail in World that might be leaning on the extra capacity of the hardware to
Mm-hmm.
to have all of that extra detail in there. I don't really know, but also the finding of monsters I think has a similar effect in World. You use your scout flies, which are a contrivance to be sure and an obvious one, but you still feel like you're stalking the monster until you find it.
Yeah.
In Rise, you look at the map, there's the monster, I'll run over to it and start fighting it. It feels too gamey to me
Yeah.
because as a hunter you don't have a mini map in theory. Now I don't understand why this is the way it is, because you've got this Kahoot thing that doesn't seem to do anything, and I don't see why you can't use it as a scout fly.
Yeah.
So
The Kahoot seems like it was an idea they started and just kind of forgot about.
yeah, like if they thought those scout flies were too abstract because they're just lights that hover around, then I don't see why you can't. Oh well, you've got you now in addition to your Palamute and your Pelico, you've got your Kahoot, and he's basically a guy that you can use to scout the direction a monster is in, or something like that, so that you can feel more like you're hunting it instead of just finding an enemy and killing it. I don't know. Maybe that's just my personal foibles, but I feel like as a game, it feels way more gamey. It doesn't
Definitely.
feel as much like a natural hunt the way Will managed to accomplish. The environments I feel they're quite good and they're impressive given the hardware, but I feel like they range between too simplistic and too complex. Like I feel the environment for the the shrine is a bit too simple, and the snowfield is a bit too simple, but the lava caves are obscenely complex, like ridiculously complex.
Yeah.
And
There they
this is a problem because you are sort of trained to exploit the wire bugs to get around, except that there are lots of places in the lava caves where you just sort of can't,
Mm-hmm.
because you're meant to go a particular way to get to a particular place. So yeah, I'm a bit dubious about that. But I feel like the maps are a decent size, but if you get, say, you couldn't put 4 monsters on a lot of these maps. You couldn't put 3 monsters on some of these maps. Like 3 monsters on the Shrine Ruins would be too many monsters, and sometimes there are 3 monsters. So yeah, I think that again, I feel like it's wrong to compare it to World because the hardware was so different. But I feel that the execution is like the number of monsters that you're going to have at a time in World was better, generally speaking. Like you would not bump into one around every corner, and you would also not feel like you were alone on the map. You could see the leavings of monsters behind them, which is another thing that I feel this game doesn't do. Like the monsters don't really leave bits other than glowing drops behind themselves. They don't leave footprints, and I dramatically underestimated the effect that footprints have on the feeling of hunting.
Yes. Yeah.
The fact that they're not there makes it look like the monster has just been plonked in there to be fought.
Yeah. So before World, a lot of the time is you go onto your map, and every sector of the map was a separate loading screen, by the way. And all you could really do is run around until you found the monster. Like, certain monsters would appear in certain tiles, and you could go and just search those tiles. But Some monsters, like Rathalos in particular, would do this annoying habit of it'll fly to a tile, stay there for a minute, and then fly off. You had no indication. World implemented the Wild Bugs, which was an excellent system.
Scoutflies.
Yep, sorry, Scoutflies. So you had to actually hunt your monster. And, yeah, okay, you could still run around and find it if you really wanted to, but, yeah, you could just properly track it. And now Rise is, again, it's a step backwards where it's neither of those things. It's just like, the monster is over there, go do.
Yeah, I do think that it's a step back in those regards. Nevertheless, despite the fact that I feel in many ways it has inferior to World in certain respects, I'm still very impressed at what they've managed to do given the platform. I just hope that they don't constrain themselves to this way of doing things, because I do think it's somewhat limiting.
Yeah.
I have not really gotten a great deal out of the Palico and the Palamute. Like, the Palamute almost just feels like a mount to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just hasn't been that useful in combat, and I'm not sure if there's some way that I can set up his skills that will make him a real benefit to have around.
There are.
But he seems to be just, oh well, I mount him, and occasionally the monster will turn and face him instead.
Yeah, you can beef him up as a tank, or you can even set him up as kind of a fist weaver if you really want.
Yeah, I mean, like my starting one is still the one that's with me at the moment, and he does have a healing move, but I think it's hit me all of once.
Yeah, what they don't tell you is the vice that the dog gets when he attaches onto the monster's back. Hit that spot, because that's a weakened spot.
I'm hearing a lot of what they don't tell you, or they don't tell you this, Fern. This is worrying.
This is Monster Hunter.
I didn't even know that he could do that. Like, I've not noticed him attaching to a monster at any point.
Yeah,
so
it's actually kind of funny when you first see it, because there's this rather large dog grabbed onto the back of the monster and flapping around like some sort of giant tick.
Yeah, does it leave any visible marking when he comes off, or so you don't know?
You got to hit it while he's attached.
Okay.
Yeah, later on you get a jaw where the dog will stick it on there and then leave it. He'll jump off and keep attacking normally, or use a different weapon, which lasts a lot longer. So if you can still see that jaw attached to the monster, still whack that spot.
Right. Like, I mean, this just goes to show, like with all Monster Hunter games, there's a lot to be learned as you go.
Yeah.
But and I don't want it to make it sound like I'm just I'm unilaterally criticizing it because I like World so much, and I do like World a lot. But I'm still having a huge amount of fun with the game. Just the sheer variety of monsters is really great. You get a lot more different fights that you can do thrown at you early on than you do in World, where you've got to proceed really slowly. And I feel like that pace kind of works for World. The lots of different monsters available from the start work really well in this game, though, because of its slightly more gamey approach. But speaking of gamey approaches, I just don't like the Rampage.
Yeah, I don't.
Again, it's one of those things. Like I feel like I'm being forced to play a different game. I really enjoyed defending the base against Valkana in World, because you don't have to do it very often.
You do it once.
At all. Yeah, it's just this one-time thing, and that makes it a really cool set piece. You probably won't ever do it again, but it's really cool at the time. And it's sort of like Chrysalis or Steps of Faith in Final Fantasy, where there's like it's just this really, really dramatic cinematic fight, like on the bridge to Ishgard when the dragons are attacking, and you've got to try and make your way across. You only do it once, but it's a real set piece. But I'd get really freaking sick if I had to sick of the game if I had to play that way in the game all the time. Likewise, the Rampage, they seem to really want you to play the Rampage, but I can't think of very many reasons to do it, other than, right now I can't think of any reasons to do it, because I don't want to upgrade my low rank weapons until I know what they're going to turn into. Yeah. So there's not really a good reason to do the rampage early on, and ultimately, it's tower defense, and I suck at tower defense. And honestly, I don't know when I'm supposed to be tower defensing.
Yeah.
They open up step by step the different weapons for the tower defense, like they do in a lot of tower defense games, and they send lots of weakened monsters at you with different classes, basically, which will act in different ways, and you've got to react to them in different ways. But generally speaking, there's this tension between my overwhelming greatsword user's urge to just rush into battle and
Yeah.
the fact that, oh, well, they clearly really want me to use all these weapon emplacements and that sort of thing.
I mean, they give you a
And-
Dragonator for crying out loud.
Yeah, like, I know where the Dragonator is and I want to use it. However, you're supposed to prevent them ever getting as far as the Dragonator, ideally. So, I don't know. Like, it feels like a very strange thing for them to try and jam into the game, and hopefully they don't make it a recurring theme in the franchise, because I don't really like it that much. It just doesn't seem very well executed, and I'm not sure I want it to be well executed, because I don't actually want to play a really polished tower defense game. I want to play a really polished Monster Hunter game. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't particularly like the rampage. If it was a really gloriously executed set piece that you had to do maybe twice in the storyline, then I would consider it a real highlight. But I did the tutorial one, and now I dread. I honestly have a feeling of dread of having to go and do it again,
Mm-hmm.
because it just doesn't seem fun to me. Like, monsters are cool in Monster Hunter because you've got to have these deals with them, right? You've got to really scrap it out with a particular monster head to head. But supplying a whole slew of weak versions of them that you'll hit them a few times and then they'll leave, it's not what a monster is.
No. It just doesn't feel right.
And I don't even know if I'm supposed to go down there and hit them, or whether I'm supposed to be up on the ballista shooting at them, or what. There's a lot that I don't really grasp about the rampage, and maybe there'll be YouTube videos that go up that really break them down in an efficient way to deal with them, so that you can get the tickets that you need out of doing them, and then forget about them until you need tickets again. Because I don't find it fun enough to indulge in the normal process of learning by doing. And it feels like there's a lot of fish hooks in there as well, a lot of wrong things that you can do that are going to end up. The thing that I hate about tower defense, the thing that stopped me getting into League of Legends, which I'm going to call tower defense for the purposes of this discussion, because you defend towers, is it all hinges on devoting a large chunk of time, which can all go pear-shaped at the very last second. And it does not require you to screw up anywhere except for the last point, and then all of that time is wasted. So this is basically, to me, this feels like the opposite of a Monster Hunter fight, in that in a Monster Hunter fight, you are typically engaged with the monster, constantly trying to engage with the monster and engage with the monster. You're fighting the monster. You'll break things, he'll drop things, you can pick things up, and you'll get to keep those even if you flub it later, and so on and so forth. And you'll fight a monster, usually, let's say the average hunt is going to take you 15 minutes or something, and then you get your result at the end. In the case of the rampage, you've got to basically spend a huge amount of time farting about not playing the game because you're setting up defenses, and then fighting monsters that are not real monsters, they don't act like real monsters, and you've got to use weird ways to fight them off. And then you'll have one actual fight with a monster at the end, and at any point, if you screw up in the way you do things and the monster makes it all the way to the gate and breaks it, well, you just wasted all that time. Yeah. All that time that you weren't having fun fighting a monster and you weren't getting stuff, and now it's over. Like, the thing with fighting a monster and then losing is that you still got better at fighting the monster while you did it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, in fact, you beat tough monsters, is by losing to them until you understand them. If the rampage, you have to play tower defense as a totally different skill set, and you can lose either by getting beaten up by the monster enough times that you're not on the field of play and they can break the gate, or they just you flub your tower defense exercise and which is not a skill set you've been building up throughout the rest of the game, and then you've just lost all that time. You aren't having fun doing the thing you bought the game to do in that time. So I think the whole thing is just a drag on the game in general. I think it's like if I had to fight Zora Magdaros all the time to get stuff, I would have hated World. But I don't. I don't have to fight Zora Magdaros all the time. I can do normal monster fights against normal monsters. And that's why I hope that this is a limited gimmick that exists in Rise and only Rise in this form.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first.
No.
Like, there's been, I believe it was Generations had a certain expedition mechanic, as opposed to what it is, where it was kind of a linear corridor, and there'd be maybe 3 monsters along it somewhere, and you could choose to fight them, or if it was like Kezu, you could just ignore it and keep going. Which, yeah, it was very simple, but it only lasted 1 game, maybe 2 games, I think they made. But yeah, like gimmicks are not uncommon in Monster Hunter, and they only stuff that really doesn't work they will get rid of immediately.
Yeah, I don't know what
mechanic.
I don't know what the public reaction has been to Rampages, but to me, they are not what Monster Hunter is about. You're not doing the things that constitute Monster Hunter when you're doing a Rampage. You're doing something else, and I don't really like it.
They just really, it does really feel out of place.
Yeah,
it fits the story and all, but yeah.
There've been a few bits and pieces of adjustments I've seen here and there. I got really enraged at Barroth because I feel either I was very, very unlucky, which is possible because it wouldn't be the first time, or they've just made changes to Barroth which I think go too far in the opposite direction. And a lot of the things that I think that are different from World in this game, if they are not just withdrawing from alterations that World makes to the basic paradigm, them trying to overcorrect something, like the mounting system I feel is an overcorrection. The mounting system was too boring, so they made it too powerful and too interesting for its own good, in my opinion. In the case of Barroth, I feel like they thought Barroth was too boring of a brute within, and to play up his strengths as the mud monster a bit more. But my experience with Barroth in the 2 times that I've really had a decent fight with him is that he just spams his mud all the freaking time and makes the whole fight a drag, because a lot of the time you just can't approach him because he's flinging mud everywhere, and the mud will form a ring around him which you cannot cross, because if you step in it you're going to get water blight and you're going to be moving slowly and you'll get wrecked.
Yes.
So yeah, and so that makes it a real pain to approach him. And then when fighting him, I feel like his crown hitbox has gotten massive, and if you use a great sword, you're going to hit that crown all the time, anytime you're trying to fight him from the front. So you're pretty much obliged to try and, move around and fight his hips and fight his tail. And seeing the front of the monster is just a bad thing because it means he's going to charge you and you can't hit him. So yeah, I don't really like the way Barroth has been changed. But the other ones that I've fought, I haven't seen anything which I particularly dislike. Like Pookie Pookie is more or less the same as he was before. And except for the fact that I think that he probably has lost a little bit of what made him interesting, because there's not as many different things for him to eat now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the going in ready to fight Poison Toadstool Pookie Pookie, only to find that he'd been eating scatter nuts, could be a nightmare if you weren't ready for it.
Yes.
I fought Pookie Pookie so little that I totally forgot he even ate stuff.
Yeah, I'd honestly forgotten he did that. But which is
I fought
first...
lots of Pookie Pookies.
Yeah, it's not the first time I'd actually forgotten he did that. So when in World I'd run into him changing things up, was because oh, that's right. And now my face is on fire.
Yeah, well, the thing is that he could stun you really easily and stuff like that, depending on what he'd been eating. So, yeah, I found I was always aware of that, because when I was trying to figure out how the end game of Iceborne worked and do that weird sort of that zone which had lots of different zones embedded in it, and they had different rankings and stuff, and I didn't understand it at all. That's sort of why I stopped playing Iceborne, so I just couldn't nut it out, and I didn't really want to do it by myself. I got stuck trying to work out how to do things, and the only thing that would spawn for me was Pookie Pookie. So I just killed dozens of Pookie Pookies. I got very, very good at fighting Pookie Pookie to the point where one would appear and I could wail on it till dead. And it wouldn't be able to do anything. It wouldn't even be able to change area.
Oh no.
But yeah. I like Pookie Pookie. I think Pookie Pookie is like a strictly better version of Great Roggy.
Mm-hmm.
I feel he does the same thing except he's way funnier and he's way cooler.
Great Roggy.
And better looking too.
Yeah. You got the Jaggy trio and the Velocidon trio. And they're basically the same thing. They're all 6 of them are raptors.
Need our boy Sitsuyaku.
Yeah, you need more Flash, bro.
Need photography, bro, to come in and save the day and knock the Legion out of the sky.
Yeah. Like, at least
Yeah,
Velocidrome's deal, he's really quick. Which isn't particularly helpful in a beginner monster, but still.
Yeah, actually, I did find that Great Izuchi was a bit snappier than I expected from a first monster.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't have a lot of hit points, but he's always not in front of you when you want to hit him. If you are a user of slow weapons, it can be a real bane to get caught up with him.
Yeah. So I think Izuchi is somewhere between Velocidrome and Great Jaggy. Because Great Jaggy, he has really 2 attacks. One was a hip check, and the other one he'd run away and bark and summon more of the regular Jaggies and Jaggiers. That was it. Probably the easiest monster in the game, and Velocidrome was pretty much the same, except I think he had a flying claw attack as well. And he's blue.
Like the one where Kulu leaps up and flails it with his claws, that type of thing.
That type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that there's really much room for Tsuchiyaku in this game because there's so much other flashing going on. Like in World, he was the only monster that could flash, but so far I've already been flashed by Bishaten and by Somnicanth.
Yeah.
So,
well, maybe somebody can pick up his job then. His job is to knock Legiana out of the sky when we're fighting it.
His job is to run in, bro all over the place, and then leave.
Well, you see, that's the problem, though, that I had, right? Monsters don't interact with each other anymore except to trigger the riding mechanism.
Yeah.
So you don't have the situation where a monster can just roll up on your fight, do something ridiculous, mic drop and walk out. That doesn't happen anymore.
Tsitsy's whole thing is just gone now.
Yeah, like nowadays, another monster enters the area, they're going to engage in a pantomime of fake fighting, and one of them will become mountable.
Yeah,
and that's all there is to it.
We'll give you a heads up actually on the only turf war I have seen, which was against Magnamalo, where he ended up in an aerial battle because he flies Dragon Ball Z style. So he flies because of reasons. But
he flies with a sheer weight of Angry Boy.
Yeah, basically. But he's actually got a fairly unique turf war compared to what you saw in World, where he will fight the monster up in the air, and then once he's finished there, he'll smack and stun that monster. He will charge up and attack. But if you look at him, he actually looks around and finds you. So that final attack of the turf war is straight on your head. So watch out for that. Don't just sit back when Magnamalo's doing that and enjoy your popcorn. Because you will get a big old flaming face full of angry wizard dog thing.
Yeah, I mean, I presume that this game's weaknesses are made mainly to accommodate its sort of status as a love letter to the classic Monster Hunter community who will play on handheld.
Yeah.
Whereas, World probably, the sheer amount of polish and effort that went into World probably felt like a betrayal to a lot of those people because they weren't really involved in that style of play. But with the death of PlayStation's handhelds, we're pretty much in exclusive Nintendo territory now, and they've got to keep that particular fan base engaged because they are what built Monster Hunter into the thing it is today.
Yeah.
So I don't begrudge these changes. I think that World did a lot of things better, and I would like to see some nice middle ground be found here.
Yeah, I think they're still maybe trying to find the ground between the new and the old, because World brought in a lot of new people, like a lot. But Rise, it's kind of a step back, maybe a bit too far towards the older games. So I think the happy ground's kind of in the middle there somewhere. But it might be another game or two until we find it.
There's a lot of things that I just find delightful about this game, though. Like for instance, I really look forward to going to the Smith and seeing what new weapons are available for me, because I know that they're not all going to look like the iron one or the bone one
with bits stuck to it.
Yeah, because they all look super cool. Like I had to go and make Agnesom's greatsword, even though I didn't really have much use for it at the time.
Basically, everything Agnesom is really cool.
Because that's not just that either. Like even the Tetranodon sword as well is really cool. Like tons of weapons are cool, and it's just they've gone so much further towards just making a weapon that's characteristic of that monster rather than sticking monster bits to an existing weapon, and that's a big deal.
You see it actually, like in this game, you can see side by side the world designs and the old school designs. Like monsters that had an old design before Rise has had that before World, I should say, has had that old design brought back in a lot of cases. Sometimes it's a new one, but it's completely unique to that monster. There might be variants. There might be Nabra particularly has like 3 variants per weapon, which is really great if you want to kill things with a cello. But
so I think that the best comparison for me is Baroth's sword in World versus Baroth's sword in Rise.
Mm-hmm.
Like Baroth's sword in World it's an iron sword with a couple of like Baroth ridges stuck to it.
Yep.
The Baroth's sword in Rise is like there's basically 4 hammers stuck to each other and then put on a great sword handle.
Yes.
It's
fantastic.
It's a really, really great reimagining of what a sword from a monster like that should look like.
I am disappointed that the chainsaw katana hasn't made a reappearance yet.
Yeah, I think they've done everything right with these except for Kezu, which I just wish the Kezu weapons didn't look the way they look.
Kezu weapons looked that way in previous games, but they're also a lot lower in definition. So you take those really disturbing designs, crank them up to high def, and they just look horrific. So yeah,
I don't like looking at.
Like the Kezu hunting horn is if you cut off Kezu's head, tie off the neck end, and just stick a mouthpiece on it. That's the Kezu hunting horn.
Blowing Kezu's horn, are you, Fern?
I refuse to make that thing.
Why would you say that, Aristeel?
Because it's what he's doing.
I am not. I refuse.
Yeah, the Kezu weapons are gross. Like, have you looked at the Kezu hammer, for instance?
I haven't.
It's called the Bag of Horrors. It's called the Bag of Horrors.
That's the most appropriate name I've ever heard.
Yes, go and look at the Kezu hammer, and you'll see why it's called the Bag of Horrors.
Alright, let me have a look here.
Oh my goodness. Whoever is designing those things, listen, you've done a spectacular job, and we're going to fire you for
it. Because you've given us nightmares. Let me see, where are we? Weapons. I'll go through monsters instead. Fine, be like that.
Oh.
Yeah, Fextra has the wiki.
That's horrifying, yes.
Yeah.
It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be.
Well, I mean, I did talk it up a bit, but it's still freaking gross.
Yeah.
Although you can make an argument for the hunting horn being grosser because I mean,
you're blowing Kezu's horn.
You're technically putting your mouth on that thing. So, but yeah, Kezu is disgusting in every respect, and I feel like that it is needful Like
Actually,
the
yeah.
the only other one that I think is really remarkably unpleasant, other than the greatsword, which is horribly unpleasant because there's too much detail, and the hunting horn and the hammer, is the light bow gun literally looks like a Kizu themed dildo.
Why? Why would you say those things?
That's what it looks like. Just it's not my fault.
I could have lived a very happy and complete life never hearing those words.
Well, you could go and look at it in the weapons menu if you want,
I refuse.
and then you will understand why I said it and how I had no choice.
I'm still refusing. So yeah,
But yeah, so
I still would like to find that chainsaw katana though. It was in Try. I just hope it wasn't on Giganox. It was a thunder element weapon, so it might have been.
wasn't Try the one that had really weird monsters?
Yeah, it introduced a lot of very strange things.
I don't know. I like strange, but there might be such thing as a bridge too far. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If there is, Kizu is definitely on the far side of it. But yeah. What else do I have to talk about? I think I'm mostly still continuing watching the same anime that I've already talked about. I don't think I've added any extra ones to the roster, other than Combatants Will Be Dispatched. So Combatants Will Be Dispatched is written by the guy that wrote Konosuba, or the woman. I can't remember if it was a man or a woman that wrote Konosuba. Sometimes you'd be surprised about these things. You can tell that it was written by the same person, and not because there's any thematic similarities between them. Combatants Will Be Dispatched is technically an isekai, it seems, but basically the setting is sort of maybe it's even wrong to say it's the setting. At any rate, there is a future dystopia, and a handful of people have risen to the top as the sort of like the absolute rulers of this dystopia, and now they're looking to solve the resource problems they've got by basically raiding other worlds for resources, and they do this by basically shipping one of their agents off there to establish a beachhead of sorts, basically to conquer that world and then strip it of resources. Unfortunately for these people, everybody involved is basically a Konosuba character. And so, despite having risen to the pinnacle of authority in the world that they live in, they are still complete clowns.
Sounds about right.
So, and evidently, the world to which they're heading deserves them, because they are also full of clowns. Because these are all Konosuba characters, essentially. The main character has the same sort of level of scruples and propriety as Kazuma.
Oh dear. This cannot
Except
possibly end well.
He may, in fact, be even more juvenile and slightly dumber.
Oh dear.
Except he's like a fully grown adult.
Yeah, at least Kazuma's a kid for the most part.
Yeah, so... yeah, yeah. Clearly, there is one of the ruler type individuals also appears to have a crush on him for some reason that is totally unclear, because he behaves in an appalling way around her, and she recognizes this as appalling and deals appropriate punishment, but she still acts like she has a crush on him. So I don't understand the logic there either. Maybe it's a childhood friend thing or something. I don't know. But the captain of the guard in the sort of the fantasy style kingdom on the world that he gets sent to, and the Kazuma type character gets sent to in order to bring about its conquest, she's more competent than Aqua, but not any cleverer.
Oh dear.
So she's clearly able to do her job insofar as her job entails, as far as its basic requirements go, but she is always thinking about profiteering, except she's nowhere near clever enough to do it successfully. So yeah, she's very, very stupid in a lot of ways, and the problems that are created by the interactions of these characters are also stupid. because of the nature of who they are. The difference, I suppose, between the cast of characters that I am beholding in execution here with Konosuba is that there's an android in the shape of a young girl is sort of made to accompany the main character as he goes off on this mission to this other world. And she, by contrast, is quite canny and generally plays the deadpan snarker in the presence of all of this idiocy. Except that she doesn't have, despite the fact that she's supposed to assist the Kazuma character, whose name I don't recall, in his mission, she doesn't really have any interest in his well-being whatsoever. And so basically uses the idiocy of the people around her to swing things in favor of the mission. And considering how incredibly stupid many of these characters are, it alternates between being very simple to manipulate them and very difficult to make the best out of a situation that has gone completely insane. But yeah, it's if you like this sort of humor, the incredibly crass humor that is Konosuba, then I think that you'll probably like Combatants Will Be Dispatched. It has a mood very similar to Konosuba in a lot of ways, and the characters are mostly stupid or reprehensible or both. So, yeah.
All right.
And that one's, as mentioned, streaming on Anime Lab, but you have to look in the non-simulcast section in order to find it. The one other thing that I watched that's new this season is not new, in that I finally got around to bumping One Punch Man to the top of the to watch list, and I started watching that. His world is kind of depressing.
Yes, it is.
And I sat there and I've watched about 3 or 4 episodes. I can't remember how many, maybe 3, maybe 4. And at this point, I'm just sort of, I watch it and I laugh when funny things happen sometimes, but mostly I've got this puzzled look on my face, and it's like, I'm not sure who I'm supposed to feel sorry for. Like, I just like, am I supposed to hate this person or pity them? I'm not really clear on this.
Bit of both, maybe.
And this is my reaction to a lot of things there. I can't decide if Saitama is a good person or a bad person either. And yeah, like the only person that seems to be just all round good boy is Genos.
Yeah, so he's kind of useless.
Yeah, he's not good for anything. He loses every fight. His purpose is to show how overwhelmingly powerful other people are, seems to be the case.
Yes.
But he seems at least to be a good boy. He's got, his heart is in the right place wherever it is. But everybody else is a bit more morally ambiguous. There are a few people who seem to be outright evil in from a given definition of outright evil, but most of them are just like, yeah, I mean, they were a bad person, but a lot of people are bad people, and he's just, and I don't know if anybody really deserves to be subjected to Saitama or not, because it just kind of ruins your place in the world one way or another.
Yeah.
But and Saitama I can't get a beat on either. It's like, well, I mean, he's not a bad person, but he's certainly not someone I would describe as virtuous either.
No. He just kind of does whatever, really.
But yeah, it's not like I'm not enjoying it, because I am enjoying it. And I actually really do enjoy getting to see Saitama go into his badass mode. And it's always fun. I kind of want Genos to actually, not lose every fight, though. That would be nice to see his actual power demonstrated more than once in the entire story. But yeah, I don't have I haven't watched enough to have any idea where the story is going. I've never read any of the manga, and I haven't watched any of the anime, so I don't know where any of it is headed. But does it go anywhere? Like, is there a broader overarching narrative about,
I have no idea.
Not
who
at all.
Saitama is, why he's that powerful? Like, do they ever go into any of the actual questions of the setting?
As far as I know, the Saitama's actual origins as to his power is just one massive troll.
I see.
I don't know if there's a serious story or any kind of arc that runs through everything that explains all the questions. All I know is people hate the everything after the first season.
Yeah, don't watch
Well,
the
I
second
guess
season.
I haven't watched the second season. The only reason I have to not watch the second season that I've been supplied was Serethus saying that it was bad. And
Yeah, but that's only going to make you watch it harder, just so you can see what he was talking about.
Yeah, but that's really like if the manga continues to be good after that point, and then season 2 ruins it, then that would be a reason not to watch it.
Mhm.
If it's just bad on its own, that's not really a reason not to watch it, because I watch lots of bad things all the time. I watched Handshakers from start to finish for crying out loud. That's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I
But,
forgot you did that.
I've heard one of the English voice cast of that show is so embarrassed that he took that job, he refuses to listen to people that bring up that he was in it.
I can believe it.
That is the right decision to make. And if you want to know why, you can subject yourself to that anime, but it's probably not worth the years it will shave off your life.
Yeah, please just don't. Do yourself a favor and don't.
It even has a mandatory sibling incest plotline.
Of course it does.
Yeah,
Because
no,
they couldn't leave out anything that was bad. If it was bad, it has to be in there.
It was mandatory. Mandatory
yeah.
badness.
I think that's where I'll call it for my week.
That's good because we're ridiculously over time for a break.
Yep. Here's some
We
music,
were
folks.
talking about video for once, though, so.
That's first.
Yep. So here's some music, folks. We will be right back. And we're back.
Yes.
So, we were at the end of All's Week, I think.
Yep, I don't really want to say much else. Goodness knows I prattled on long enough.
Yeah. But it hasn't, for a change, been about Vidya.
Yep. So I guess we'll slide into my week. Relevant things. So, again, super busy. Didn't have much time to do anything. Yay. I hate being an adult. Make it stop. But in addition to that, my parents decided to buy a second house or buy a condo and rent it out to have a source of to have an active investment instead of a passive one. With the rate that currency's going and what our economy is about to do, this is their attempt to mitigate it. Now, unfortunately, this means they can't lift anything because they're old.
You've been voluntold, have you?
Yeah, I've been voluntold to go down there for a week, and they're going as well. But they're going to be having what they call vacation. So I get to work. Otherwise, I would just deny going to begin with. So, in addition to having to do normal work for my work, I'm down there to assemble furniture and make sure a few problems that are there get fixed.
The idea of going to Florida as the hot season is beginning just sounds like raw nightmare fuel to me.
Yeah, well, it is selling season, and there as soon as we leave, we have a booking, but things need to get fixed, and they want to put up the last little bit of furniture that they couldn't assemble when they were down there by themselves. So I've been voluntold that's happening, and yeah, that will be eating my life all of the week of the 2nd. I do not know if I am leaving this coming weekend or if I will be back by the show next weekend. I could be here for both shows. I do not know. We will have to wait and see.
Just make it up as we go along.
Yeah. So that's your fair warning ahead of time. I just kind of had this dumped on my butt. I didn't choose this. So y'all get the out of left field timing as well.
Yeah.
So what else? This week, the septic tank of my house started overflowing into the pipe did, into the ground.
The poo.
Yes. So
did you have to fight a special battle like with Soprano?
Did it sing?
No, nothing sang coming out, but there was a whole lot of investigative work. And I'm very glad my job has killed my sense of smell because everybody in the house got to smell everything involved in this the entire time. And aside from the initial burst, my sense of smell was dead and didn't care at all. So I didn't really smell anything, but they were complaining the whole time. And I had to sit there for days investigating this thing, figuring it out. It took me 2 days to figure out what was wrong. And I eventually realized there was no reasonable way I could fix this thing because I just don't have the technical know-how to repair something like this. I don't know what parts I would need or how to attach them or how to get away with doing it right. And what had happened?
It's strictly a plumber's job to fix a septic tank.
Well, it was the whole line that flows out that was completely busted. And what had happened is there's a hill that it runs through, and it was coming up at the base of that hill where the line flows. And the ground had settled, and there was a dip in the pipe. And the pipe had cracked. And it also had prior repair work done, apparently, that I was not aware of. And that repair work, once I got the professionals out there, turned out to be really bad repair work. And there was no way this thing should have sunk like it did. And there was no way it should have cracked, even if it did.
So what you're saying is they did a really dodgy job, and now you're stuck with the consequences.
You didn't hire illegals again, did you?
No. I hired some local Christian company. They were real nice.
Like for the original repair job.
Oh, I don't know. I don't have a clue what happened to the original repair. I wasn't even aware it was repaired.
I see.
So, yeah, that happened. And then I got them out, and they brought a backhoe in and did the rest of the work for me. And I told them, and obviously I'm not the one paying for this, so it didn't take any money out of my pocket. So they came in, they fixed it in like a day and a half, and they were done.
Oh, that's good at least.
I did have to go in behind them and fill in a little bit more of the hole because my dad didn't think they filled in the hole good enough. I thought they did just fine, but that was not his opinion. So I got to get out there with a shovel and go fill it up.
Oh dear.
So we fixed that up, and that was good. And that was all the free time I really had this week was investigating in this thing enough to say I investigated it and then call the professionals.
That's not free time.
Yeah, no. I don't know what this free time thing is.
A myth.
it's this legendary thing I used to have in a previous life in another world. It's just all gone now. I just never have time to do anything. So yeah, I just have been out of it. Not a whole lot to talk about besides at work. Stuff's just been trudging along. Finally getting some orders out. Having to fall into the unfortunate position of I'm in charge of the company finances. And this means any overdue payments from customers, I have to go hound them and go, yo, where my money at? I am not somebody that is built for, yo, where my money at very well. In fact, I am awful at it because I can't help but listen to the negotiations of the nice lady on the other end of the phone as she says, oh, well, we had this circumstance. I find myself going, yeah, I could totally see that happening. Even if I don't believe you, I have to give you the benefit of the doubt. And this is why I should not be the one doing this part of the job. Somebody else with a more universally combative attitude needs to be the one to go do this. I'm just the wrong character type for this.
Well, most people are. That's why debt collection agencies exist.
Yeah. But I've had to say, I've had to learn enough of it to be able to tell people to shut up and give me my money. I have managed to get a few of them to go, okay, yeah, checks in the mail. But there's been a few that are like, well, we got this situation where they haven't paid us either, and we need to wait for the payments to come in before we can then send our check to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, I know. I can't exactly do anything with you if you don't have any cash yourself, but I'm going to keep pestering you until we get it. That's about the best I can offer. So it's just not a good feeling. And I know why everybody else is in this position, because the private sector's dead.
Yes.
Nobody else has money, and they're backbones of their jobs as well. They're all stuck in the exact same scenario we are, relying on these big public sector jobs that take forever to pay out and get the money trickling down the line. I know exactly why this is the problem. Its name starts with Gub and ends with Ermont.
Everything's is crap.
So yeah, I've been dealing with that mess. Trying to get stuff moved over to the new CPA so I don't have to do any more hoop jumping. Make sure they have access to all my accounts and they keep that stuff filed away. Give them permission to keep that stuff filed away, so they don't have to like log into our sales tax account again and how we have to go hunting. Which, oh, by the way, Georgia, state of Georgia, whoever makes your website that you must go to submit freaking sales tax returns and all the sales tax for that month and then pay them, fire that guy. You do not want to put a big warning on your website that caused me issues for like 3 days that says, oh, by the way, if you happen to have AT&T as a cell phone carrier and our mandatory authentication system is going to send its authentication text to an AT&T account, you might have to delete the first or the last letter or number in the sequence we send you because it tends to tack on or add an extra digit at the beginning.
That's kind of weird.
Yeah, that should not be an issue. And furthermore, the fact when I call you on the phone and you have a robot answer me is not acceptable if this is a common issue.
Beep boop.
Because I don't read all those announcements put up there. You put announcements up there. In fact, I don't even look at the announcements at the top of the page because on that page you put stuff like my racism and look how not racist we are. You really think I'm going to look up in that little notification box to see if there's something relevant to the authentication system going on? Or if you think I'm just going to think I'm crazy and can't punch in the authentication code right, mess up 4 times and get locked out of my account for 24 hours.
Presumably this is why people pay other people to do it for them.
Presumably.
Yeah. So, thank you, State of Georgia, for listening to my PSA.
All right.
I hate the government. I don't have any leisure stuff again this week. I didn't listen to any audiobooks. I didn't watch any VTubers or anything to talk about. I didn't play any video games. I am a entity who is attempting to save a company and I'm monofocused on that, and it is killing me.
Yeah. That sounds
I-
like it would.
I am actually dying. It was so bad this week that I was running on no sleep all week, staying up, trying to get stuff caught up so I could focus on contacting customers all week and wouldn't have the usual quotes and stuff behind me. So I would actually be home at normal times. I just wouldn't be on Discord, so I wouldn't be distracted. And I would be getting all this stuff done well into the night, and then I would wake up still super tired. And I got to work one day this week, and this week is such a blob. I don't even remember what day it was. Lunch, quote unquote, break came. I laid down on the couch, and I passed out for like almost 2.5 hours. And the opossum just didn't feel the need to wake me. I've got limited hours. I can contact customers. You can't let me do that.
Oh,
So
hopefully it'll be all over for you soon anyway. Hopefully.
there is no set end time to this. It is just any day now. The jobs could break and the days could finally come to an end, and I can stop running around.
Yep.
When there is money in the bank account again, and our jobs are back to breaking, and some of the private sector starts coming back, that's when this ends.
Yep.
Until then, most weeks no free time. Some weeks I'll be able to squeeze out some.
Don't worry, the party that got elected to rule your country wants the state of affairs to continue indefinitely.
Yeah. I'm on sanity's edge already. Don't get me started even harder. Yeah, or you'll actually see me in the news.
Let's not do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my week for what it was. I don't remember any of it, to be quite blunt. It is all just a blob of I need to get shiz done.
All right. So, shall we talk a bit of news?
Sure.
What do we got?
Do we have any emails? Do we check?
The
I
only
checked the
emails
email.
in there seem to be a military surplus store wanting to sell us an incredibly complicated wallet.
Tactical
A
wallet?
tactical wallet. Incidentally, by
That's
the way,
tactical.
America,
Tactical.
stop making embarrassing tactical products. Like, there's
What
this,
is the tactic? What is the tactic involved?
I don't know. There's this really cringy infomercial that pops up on our TV occasional for tactical glasses or tactical sunglasses. Which I don't know what the whole thing is. Apparently they've got some fancy light filtering to them. So they have this really annoying militaristic sounding voice doing the voiceover, and they've got screaming eagles all over the place. And it's just, why? Stop it.
Why eagles? You don't live in the United States?
It's got nothing to do with us. It's all this American ad that they just brought over, and it's got screaming eagles all over the place.
The
I don't think that
flameless.
screaming eagles have a lot of traction with the Australian audience.
No, our eagles tend to drop fire on this.
Yeah, ours. The cry of an eagle elicits a feeling of Murica in Murica, or used to when
Used
we
to,
were still
till-
Murica.
I'm pretty
When
sure
there's
it
still
elicits
eagles.
a feeling of that's racist.
Certainly in California, or any of the major cities. Hey, we can get a flameless tactical lighter. The lighter uses arc plasma technology to produce a wind-resistant and water-resistant spark without using fluid or flame.
So you
Built
can
military tough for the harshest
exact
conditions.
same thing as every single piezoelectric lighter in the world for the past 50 years.
Yeah,
Well, that's okay if we don't want that. We can get the EDC tactical pen. Or
why is
tac
it a
pen.
tactical pen?
This pen is made of robust aircraft aluminum, is a 1 in 4 tactical defense tool consisting of tungsten carbide tip, glass breaker, LED flashlight, ballpoint pen, and multi-tool.
And yet they can't spell aluminium right.
Well, they're American, obviously.
Yes.
Who else is going to send us tactical elite with a picture of a guy with an AR-15 with a really decent scope on there, actually?
I know.
That is a uniquely
I know
American thing.
Because all of those things are probably made in China.
Yeah, they are.
I don't doubt it.
Out of Australian steel. So, yeah. No emails today.
Oh, I just read them. What you talking about? We read the
No.
emails this week.
Well, yes, you could put it like that if you were so inclined.
So we got a follow up from a couple of weeks ago talking about Sony. Actually, did I link an article to this? Yep, there it is. Yeah, I've all linked it. So Sony went and decided to abort their plans to shutter the PS3 and Vita stores.
Well,
Damn good thing too.
Yeah.
I wonder how many orders for the next batch of PS5s were canceled on the spot as soon as that announcement was made.
Probably a lot. Although I think it doesn't take a whole lot for people to cancel their PS5 pre-orders anymore. Because you're probably never getting it.
Well, this is a breaking point. This was the breaking point for me as a consumer, where I said I'm definitely not getting this thing. The censorship was really bad and leaning me in that direction. This is a deal breaker. If I can't play the games, period, or continue to play the games I owned previously, no, I'm not going to support your products.
This is the whole not buying physical media issue, not being able to get physical media, and it's getting pretty bad on all fronts. Like it's now straight up been admitted by Nintendo that they use it as a tactic to push sales. Is to just they'll create a package like that Mario one, and then they'll just stop selling it.
Yeah,
and the whole reason is simply to make people fear missing out.
Yeah, FOMO, as they call it.
Yeah, artificial scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
They aren't pretending that this is not the case or anything. They're not making any kind of leaving any kind of doubt. They just say no, this is just the way it is.
Or in this case, it's there's another tactic that kicks around, which is doing something dumb and something that you probably didn't intend on doing anyway, but if it was something you could get away with, you wouldn't mind doing it. But if people argue against it, then you can pretend to be the good guy and say, okay, yeah, we're not doing that.
And we're listening to the customers. We're listening.
No.
This is the tactic with a lot of companies lately. They overstep the line by 2 steps and take 1 step back and say, look at us, how great we are.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they still forced Sean Layden out because he liked video games too much.
It didn't like money enough.
Yeah, that was what he was known for, was that he actually played video games and he liked video games. And he didn't care if it wasn't a AAA bestseller, if it was also a cool game that would help build the legacy. And he got forced out. Like, while officially he resigned, the word from the inside is that at that particular time that he resigned, there was a huge amount of internal power struggle taking place, and him leaving was tied up in the same power struggle that resulted in all of the power in Sony Entertainment being centralized in California.
Which, as we know, has wonderful implications for everybody that shows up there. Just the best people in California, the best influences, the best peers in your business ventures there. Can you smell the sarcasm in my voice, just in case it wasn't clear?
I can taste it. So yeah, that's a thing that's been happening. It is worth pointing out that the PSP store is still going to go poof, though.
PSP or PS Vita?
P.
Okay. But yeah, imagine that. People want to retain access to what they paid for. Who'da thunk?
People still want the opportunity to buy these games, even though they are old.
Well, it's not just that. It's that eventually the next step is that authentication servers go down.
Yeah. And the step after that, update servers go down. Like, if it's a cost-cutting measure, why not? Nobody really uses a PS3 anymore. We don't need to keep these game update services anymore. And you may think buying physical will save you from that. It won't. Because how many games have a day one patch these days that's like as big as the game?
Mm-hmm. Which usually makes the game actually playable.
Which means we need to try and forestall this behavior as long as humanly possible to kick that can down the road, because we can't stop it. Eventually, we will reach that point. But we need to try and stall it as long as we can.
It's going to be basically a situation where, like with PC gaming, console gaming will need to learn that lesson that took PC gaming literally decades to learn, that piracy is a supply problem. It's a quality of life of the product problem, and they're going to learn that once it turns out that a significant number of their former user base are now routinely just playing emulated games.
Yeah.
A lot of people, in most cases, if you can provide a legitimate way to buy and play a product, they will use that over piracy.
Yeah.
Provided it is easier than piracy.
Especially in the age of net play. And
Yeah.
if you have a game that has any kind of multiplayer component and it can connect to servers, if your servers are convenient to connect to, they'll almost always buy your product over having to go pirate it.
Yeah, because when you pirate it, you need to go through all these extra steps half the time just to get the product to work in the first place.
And nobody wants to download the Command and Conquer multiplayer client because that thing is a bear.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, we have it downloaded because we're insane, but
I think I've taken it off my system, actually, because, yeah.
it's such a bear.
It is an absolute beast. Incidentally, I still need to pick up the Command & Conquer remasters and reward EA for not being EA.
No, dear.
Yeah.
But I want to hard focus on the Sony thing just a little bit more and how this has impacted my personal buying decision and wonder if it's done anything for y'all.
All right.
I was already leaning towards not getting it with their heavy focus on censorship and moving everything to Cali.
Mm-hmm.
This is a deal breaker, and their apology means nothing to me because it shows me they are walking down this path. And we will get to a point where even physical media won't matter, even if they don't stop it entirely, because you won't be able to update your games.
Well, we're already at
Now
that
that
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and if you cannot update your games, literally no modern game can be played without its day one patch.
Mm-hmm.
None of them on consoles can. Not a single one. I can think of on offhand 4 games that didn't. Not only 2 that I'm absolutely sure of that don't have a day one patch. The more I rethink about it, Devil May Cry 5 being the big one. That game worked out of the box.
Yep.
And did not. And the downloads were all extra content that was added, like the banana hands, stuff you don't need for the game.
Not quite. Don't forget DLC.
Oh yeah, there's all the DLC too. But I was talking about physical games and copies of it you have got on your desk.
Yeah.
And how many of those will still be playable in their release state after the store goes away? None, almost. Let's see here. I think Tales of Berseria came out of the box just fine. Neo 2, day one patch. Digimon Cyber Sleuth, day one patch.
Yep.
Bloodborne, day one patch. Dark Souls 2, day one patch. Dark Souls 3, day one patch. Resident Evil 2, day one patch. The Yakuza games, day one patch. All of this stuff has day one patches. The second those servers go offline, all those games where I say day one patch are useless. They are just pieces of whatever physical disc media is made of. Forget the material they used to make the disc. And paper inside of a box that looks nice.
Not even a big enough box to put your monitor on.
Yeah. So I can't, if they're going to start marching down this path that eventually leads to them removing the update servers, making physical media redundant one way or another, but I'm not going to support it. I'll go somewhere else. I'll keep PC gaming this generation probably.
Like, I was already leaning towards just not buying a new console altogether.
Yeah, that's where I was as well. Like I was my gut instinct was leading me towards PC gaming exclusively for this coming generation.
Yep.
Like that's why I blew my $700 or whatever on getting a Switch, because at least I know there are games on it, and that Fern has one. It's current generation, so they probably aren't going to revamp anything too dramatically in the near future. But for me, it wasn't really thinking about game preservation specifically that made this a deal breaker for me. It was sort of a meta view of what does this say about Sony, not what they want, but what does it say about Sony as a company. And what it said to me was that one of 2 things are true: either they were sincere about their proposal to end these services, or they were insincere about their proposal to end these services. And if they were insincere, that means that they're unbelievably cynical, and that they were willing to exploit their customers to their customers' sort of reactions and emotions to an unconscionable degree. If they were sincere, it means that they are not competent to run the company. That the Sony that exists now is not capable of doing their job, and therefore they are not a safe proposition to invest my money in their console for this generation. Not until there's a dramatic overhaul of the way the company is run. So, from that broader perspective, my reaction to this debacle has been that Sony isn't worth my money. Not now. Not the way it is.
Yeah. The other way that's part of my thinking, and the other half being is there's just less and less reason to actually own one of the mainline consoles. The Switch is kind of off doing its own thing because it's a handheld. So it's still got a market niche, but so the PlayStation just doesn't really anymore. Microsoft's actually
unless all you care about is Naughty Dog games.
Yeah, which you really shouldn't.
Not anymore.
They're not the Naughty Dog they used to be.
The Crash Bandicoot team's off working for somebody else now, guys. The Spyro Crash Bandicoot team, they ain't there.
They gone.
Hate to break this to you.
Long gone.
The people that run Naughty Dog have their fantasies of being railed by a tranny put into the game now for you to enjoy. That is their video games now.
Misery porn.
But that's basically that's Sony's approach. Like I said, most of my decision was made on what does the future of this company look like, which is not necessarily a wise way of making the decision, but it's what I'm interested in, so it's what I looked at. And Sony have been very explicit that they shut down the Sony Japan studio, the one that makes games I actually like and think are cool, in favour of giving money to Naughty Dog to make AAAs. Like, that's what they did with that money. That's why they pulled all that money out of Japan, because they wanted more Last of Us 2. The thing is, the deep irony, though, to that, despite the fact that they're the main AAA first-party studio, functionally, is Naughty Dog for Sony, and they aren't doing anything right now. Like, they're literally not doing anything right now. It's actually become a problem for the company, in that they threw so much of their staff at Last of Us 2 that pre-production on upcoming titles basically ground to a halt.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they have nothing on the go at all, which is why they're throwing their weight behind more remakes, because they don't have anything for their staff to do. So that's just more signs of incompetence in management. They don't know what they're doing. Sony doesn't know what they're doing. Naughty Dog doesn't know what they're doing. That entire edifice looks like it's heading down the line of commercial disaster, and they've expressed absolute contempt for anybody who doesn't agree with their vision.
Which is most of their customers.
By contrast, Microsoft has seen the writing on the wall for consoles in general.
For quite some time now, actually.
And has just been throwing all of their effort into phasing out consoles entirely. And, they are taking an approach that I would describe as potentially monopolistic, because they are wisely but ruthlessly laying in their gains early for a world in which consoles simply don't exist, and are basically making a bid to obtain absolute market domination of the PC space, the way they have with OSs for the longest time. That's why I'm a bit leery of the sort of the gradually warming relations between Valve and Microsoft, because I feel like we need to have at least two big dogs in the room.
Yeah,
not just one.
Thankfully, if Microsoft does move to acquire Valve, I think that'll be the fastest antitrust that had ever happened. But
yeah, unlike a lot of the other markets where people have been able to make a clear-ish argument that Steam doesn't compete in the market against Microsoft in a marketplace to marketplace competition.
That's direct competition.
And furthermore, Microsoft is making the OS you have to play the Steam games on to begin with.
Correct. So, Microsoft has been for a while now pushing towards having a kind of a combined ecosystem between like PC and console. So to the point where even if the console's phased out completely, all their games are still playable on the PC.
I think that's their intention, though, because they know that their strength is in the PC place. All they need to do is make the idea of PC more digestible.
Yep.
Like, if the console, I do believe that if a generation or two from now, if the console continues to exist, it will be Microsoft on the current trajectory. It will be a Microsoft console, and it will be a console in name only. It will have a cut down version of Windows running on it, and it will be indistinguishable from a PC, other than its branding.
Yeah,
And that's where they'll go.
It'll be sold not so much as a self-contained console in and of itself. It'll be sold as a convenient, simple option. Something that it's a PC that you can just plug into your TV and it'll play games.
They can keep all the console branding. They don't need to get rid of that. But the distinction will be eroded to the point where anybody who is canny about their gaming options will see that it is the same thing as a PC.
Yeah. In that same future, on the other hand, you'll have Nintendo, who will probably dominate the portable market, like they are already poised to do. So Sony needs to figure out where they want to be, because at the moment they're nowhere.
They seem to think that the future is a Naughty Dog, but that's the thing, right? Like, the reason that I'm looking at this from the broader perspective of what is the company doing is because of that issue with Sean Layden leaving, when he is the one guy they had at the high corporate level who really understood gamers and how gaming works, because he plays video games and he sees value in things that the bean counters don't. And they got rid of him to replace him with a guy who is like just a suit. That's his thing. And that gives me no confidence in the future of Sony Entertainment, because they clearly don't know gaming. They don't have anybody who knows gaming. They think that gaming operates along the same rules as Hollywood. So if you can keep churning out an MCU movie every year, you'll be fine. But that's not enough. It's not enough for gaming. It's not sufficient.
You still need to have the other stuff to support it. So, yeah, the game industry from the outside, it looks like it's just FIFA and Call of Duty every year, but there's so much more going on. So, yeah, I don't see Sony being around in the gaming space for another generation if they don't figure out what on earth they want to do.
It'll take a certain type of soul searching that's very difficult for companies.
Yeah.
But the gaming console cycle is very interesting. That it has a consistent pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Where for one generation, one major competitor will do well, and for the following generation, its opponent will do well, and they'll rotate until one of those competitors falls out of the industry. So I don't know. Maybe Microsoft will be doing really well this one, and they will. I don't know. Maybe they'll just spectacularly mess it up the next one, and Sony will come out on top of that one, and they'll learn from their mistakes and show this is how you share games, or something.
Maybe.
Also, I'm lagging like a boss.
Yeah, you kind of are. All right, what else we got?
Because it would be... Well, I'll save it for last. Because I want to make sure we hit our quotient for it, but we need to end on it for the funnies.
Okay.
We'll do one I grabbed. I guess Destiny 2 has... Remember back when Bungie said, and we talked about how they said, don't worry, we're going to be different from Activision, and it was totally all Activision's fault that everything was screwed up?
Yeah, that was a lie.
Well, it might not have been a lie. It's just the part about them changing their ways, that was a lie, but that it was Activision's fault might not be a lie.
Yeah.
So, they're introducing a transmog system to Destiny.
So
the broad... good on paper.
Yeah, transmogs are nice, and people have been asking for it for a while, from what I understand.
Yep. And
then they put in this ridiculously obtuse system in how to do it, and it didn't take long after reading through it for people to go, wait a minute, y'all are just trying to get more money out of me.
Yeah.
So the way the system works is, I think it takes 150 of these transmog whatevers to be able to transmog a piece of gear.
Cloth thread A or whatever it was, synth thread. Yeah, synth thread.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, synth thread fiber or something like that.
So yeah, there's that. And then you need like 15 of these, and each season, which is about 2 weeks from what I remember in the game, you can get up to 10 of these. You see the problem here.
Mm-hmm.
This is the biggest major problem. There's other problems we'll get into in a minute, but there's basically no way for you to get enough of these things to transmog even one piece of gear if you if you play nonstop. So I don't know what they were thinking, making it quite that bad and that obvious. But the fact that there's a grind associated with it, B, a cap, and C, you can pay money in the cash store if you want more right now and be able to transmog your stuff right away.
Because of course they have that option.
That's why video game companies. I don't want to say you're horrible, terrible people all the time. I would like to report a story of one of you guys doing, something nice once in a while. That would be lovely.
That would be nice. Doesn't happen, but it'd be nice.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what they're doing with their transmog system, and this is what I mentioned before. One of those cases of them taking 2 steps over the line, so they can take 1 step back and say, "Oh, look how much better than Activision we are." I know that's really cynical, especially for a company that came out and said we're going to do better than the guy that screwed things up before. But I just don't have any faith in the industry anymore, and that's genuinely where I think we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people lie. That's what we have learned over these past several years. They just can't be trusted. You hope for the best and expect the worst.
So that's that one. Alrighty. What else do we have?
I don't know. What do y'all want to talk about next?
There's a giant sponge attempting to kill me, so I can't change the window to display the topics.
So
you want to talk about Knights of the Old Republic?
Where was that one?
There's not really a great deal to say about it. It was just basically an announcement of sorts from Jason Schreier, of all people, at Bloomberg, because he went to Bloomberg.
Of course he did.
But yeah, he's managed to confirm that Aspyr is making, like, it's actually happening, is making a KOTOR remake, because nobody can make new games anymore.
Yeah. I loved KOTOR.
Thankfully, KOTOR is a game that is good enough to justify a bit of a rehash, provided that they don't, wreck anything.
Yeah.
It's also a big
touched
RPG in the Western
HK-47.
gaming market.
Yeah, it was one of the things that really defined the Western RPG for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a lot of people, at least the standard D20 space system that it used. Because the other types of games like that, Baldur's Gate and stuff, were mostly on PC. And Neverwinter Nights, that was all on PC for the D20 stuff. KOTOR was the first one that really got a hold on console gamers.
Yep.
And that followed that system, and it wasn't like an Elder Scrolls game or an open world exploration game. Like, we had our Morrowinds and stuff around that time too, but that's a totally different animal than the type of Western RPG that this was.
Morrowind was still role based though, right?
Yes.
To a point. Yeah, you could be clearly hitting that dude with your sword, but you ain't doing any damage.
Cliff races. The amount of time I've spent playing Morrowind where you're just standing in one spot, here's this cliff racer flapping around your head, and you just swinging your sword and you can't hit the thing.
Yeah. So, yeah. If there's a game that falls into needing, or not needing, but could use a remake and is significant enough to deserve one, probably KOTOR. But, when did rumors of this start floating around? Like, for years now.
Well, it's because the several projects have actually been started and been stopped because of, who controls the KOTOR IP is sort of in flux.
Mm.
It has been for a while, because ultimately it's with Disney, but of course it wasn't always with Disney, because originally LucasArts existed, and it's part of the old expanded universe. So, like, what's its status? And so there's lots of umming and ahhing about where it actually exists. And the rumors of this particular iteration of the remake started January last year or this year. I can't remember. I think January last year. But now it's been confirmed that it's actually going ahead. There is actually somebody who is doing the work now to bring it to pass.
Yeah, from memory of the new universe, the whole Darth Revan story was actually one of the few bits that was kept.
Yeah, I think they kept a lot of that stuff that happened so far before the original trilogy and the prequels that it doesn't really matter if they keep it, because they can always change something in that 3,000 year gap that will make it not matter.
Yeah. So they can always just retcon it and say, oh, it's been 3,000 years, no one's really sure. Which is a bit of a cop out, but there you go. So yeah, it's good. As long as they don't change anything, I'll happily play through KOTOR again.
If I can find the time. KOTOR's a long game.
It is a long game. It is a very good game, though. But I'd love to see if they're going to get a remake of KOTOR, if we get a remake of KOTOR 2. Because KOTOR 2 kind of died in development hell.
Well, KOTOR 2 was never finished.
No, it wasn't. There's a whole bunch of stuff that was just cut from the game.
Yeah, some of it was able to be restored by fans over the course of time, but nobody knows exactly what it was supposed to look like.
Yeah. Especially considering a lot of story elements were among the stuff that was cut. Some really big, important story elements. So yeah, if they're going to do that, maybe it would be nice if we could actually see KOTOR 2 the way it was originally meant to be, but I don't think we're going to. We can live and dream.
Yeah. So, that's upcoming.
Next thingy.
Let's see. You want to talk about boobies?
This was just... I put this in here as a corollary to last time.
Because we can't go a whole show without talking about boobies. I was going to do it for the last one, but I felt it would be just a bit too soon to the start of the news segment to jump right into it. So MiHoYo is getting banged on by the CCP again.
Well, the evidence of that, other than the fact that it's incredibly probable.
They're a Chinese company. They had the door banged on by a CCP agent that said, remove the boobies. So all the bunny girls costumes are gone from what I think was a relatively recent event.
I think it was a new event. I think very, very new event that had happened, and apparently there was a lot of whinging from the people who are allegedly part of the fan base about how it was lewd and inappropriate. And this is a game that's already got full of swimsuits and stuff.
A lot of boobies.
Honkai Impact has a lot of cheesecake. It's all about gorgeous waifus, ultimately, like so many of these games.
Yeah, so they've been called upon to remove these new outfits, and this whole...
It's totally not the government.
Yeah, this just stinks of astroturfing, although I don't even know why they would bother, given that it's the CCP and they can just tell them to do whatever the heck they want.
Well, the thing is that they can tell the fans to demand it, and then the fans will demand it, because a lot of the fans are incredibly brainwashed. Because the thing is that the brainwash is thoroughgoing throughout your entire life if you live in China.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of, oh, well, they need to exert all of this special effort in order to convince people of things or deceive people, because from birth they're brought up to agree with the CCP now. Which is why you had things happen like the
Coco stuff.
Coco, because the fans actually think that way. They actually do think all glory to the CCP because it's been programmed into them since they were born.
So yeah, China on the crusade against boobies now. Hard on it. That no pun intended. That time, maybe next time, but yeah, it's unfortunate, but
the argument that I've heard on the topic was something along the lines of, there was a particular character that the fan base claimed that they didn't want to see getting the lewd treatment because that character is sort of like representative of the Chinese nation in sort of an iconic way. The way in the equivalent would be the that new Bishonen guy that they had added to Genshin Impact just after we stopped playing. I can't remember
Oh, okay.
the guy that works for the funeral parlor. But yeah, he's a similar character who's designed to be iconic for Chinese,
I see.
and they claim that was one of the claims I saw anyway. But all of the stuff is like, well, they're repeating what they've been told to say, so it doesn't really matter in a certain sense what the supposed motivation was, because it's all artificial anyway.
Yeah, just unfortunately, if the CCP's coming for the boobies, it's only a matter of time before Tencent or somebody that owns stakes in major companies gets the letter that boobies are bad, and they're going to confirm another stuff that isn't made by the CCP but is owned by it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the West has got its own problems with people who hate boobies, so.
Oh, no astroturfing necessary. All they got to do is point it out.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, it was KGB astroturfing originally. They brought the commies in.
I suppose so, but
They just did the astroturfing at the university level 50 years ago instead of recently.
why people gotta hate on boobies, man?
Yeah, if I guarantee it would lose traction if it was actually initially framed in they're coming for your waifus sort of perspective.
The only people who don't like boobies are the most stick in the mud girls you can imagine.
I'll take your word for it.
Even girls think boobies are at least funny. At least in my interactions.
I don't.
Though it is entirely possible I do not meet normal people on a day-to-day basis.
All right. Next article.
What have we got?
I think there's only one left.
There's a bunch of little stuff in there.
Unless you want to talk about Yokotaro.
Not really. He's making a mobile game.
He's
Woo.
being weird again, basically.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that he's being weird, but he's always being weird, right?
Yeah, it's kind of his thing.
But the thing is that the game that he's making, he thinks is weird.
I'm not sure how that would work.
It means it's going to be...
Something about it being kind of weird, and he wasn't sure how he could possibly sell it because it didn't make any sense.
It's probably something perfectly normal and palatable to an average person.
It's like generic gacha.
Generic gacha.
Like something you wouldn't think twice about.
Well, yes. If Yoko Taro came out and made something that was completely generic and standard, that would be weird.
It also wouldn't be Yoko Taro, though.
No, it would not.
Well, there would be some elaborate troll underneath it.
Almost certainly. So yeah, Yoko Taro is making a mobile game. Don't know what it is yet, but we shall see. We shall see.
Well, it's a download-only game, so it'll probably have a PC version as well, but I imagine it'll be able to run on phones if it's download-only. That's the only real reason to forego the bonus sales you get from a physical copy.
It tends to be the way things go anyway.
Or maybe it is so weird that he was unable to pitch the idea to anybody who would produce a physical copy.
Yeah. So we'll see.
We shall see. We shall see. All right. Last article, and that's it. Then let's get out of here. I think we're approaching time.
What was the other one you wanted to talk about?
Well, whatever the last one you had was.
There's several topics that
yeah.
So unless you're planning to rush off, I'd at least like to buzz through them. I don't know what your schedule is.
Buzz away.
Jeff Kaplan leaving Blizzard.
Yeah. I forgot he was entirely still there. I thought he'd left ages ago.
No, he was still there, and he's not anymore, and he's left all of a suddenly without really explaining a particular reason why, and most people are putting money on him joining one of the other outfits full of ex-Blizzard people.
Morheim's outfit, perhaps?
That'd be nice. That boy needs more love.
But yeah, like, Kaplan is one of the big minds behind a lot of the Blizzard products that have been actually successful.
He's been there since Blizzard was young.
He's been there since, like, Reign of Chaos, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he's all the way back in Warcraft 3.
He's one of the good ones.
So he's been on staff forever. It's a miracle he's decided to stay around this long. I would have bailed on the company along with the rest of his buddies.
Yeah, I don't know how it's him to say, but they must have given him a lot of dosh to do it. But he's got a lot of pull in the industry, and he's got a lot of friends.
Mm-hmm. So, best of luck to him, and hopefully he'll pop up again soon with something cool.
Right. So the next little one that I wanted to mention is we reported previously on Microsoft intending to try and buy out Discord.
Yeah.
Discord have decided that they want to. It seems like they've decided they just want to stay independent and have rejected several major buyout attempts. Not just Microsoft, but apparently 3 potential buyers. They have just ended the discussion.
I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. They're a communications platform.
Well, it depends on what you're after, right? Because the normal life cycle of a startup like Discord is to be bought out. That's simply the most common thing to happen.
Yes.
Yeah, they just got so much market penetration. Yeah, it's just Discord has so much market penetration already. I don't see why they would give up any kind of control for the sake of being bought out. It would limit what they can do as a business and creatively in the future.
That depends whether that's their goal, because a lot of people make these products to get bought out. Like, that's their goal.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's good news they're not getting bought out. It's not so good news that Discord themselves have done some really dumb stuff lately. But,
yeah, but the thing is that if they get bought out, then we're in a situation where Microsoft most likely will end up being the one controlling them. Yeah. And they already control a huge amount of that communication sphere with Microsoft Teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want them having, hegemonic control over communications any more than I want Google to have it.
Is Teams the replacement for Skype? I've never used Teams.
Teams is a replacement for Skype. Like, you can use it like Skype. But it's closer in function to Slack and Discord. Because it's got they all converge more or less. Like, I don't think that there's anything that you can do on Skype that you can't do on Teams. Although I've never tried to call a terrestrial phone on Teams, so I'm not sure. Whereas I have done that with Skype.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Skype is a bit of a doggy anyway at this point, so it makes sense for them to try and phase it out when they've got a much more universalized piece of software to work with, like Teams. But yeah, I'm mainly happy about this buyout because it keeps more players in the game. Mm-hmm. Because there's a huge overlap in functionality between Teams and Discord as is. And I don't really want them being homogenized into a single service. I like having more different branches of development taking place at once.
Yeah, just choice between where you take your business.
It is a lot about choice, but it's not just about choice, because the fact is that when you've got more minds with different missions working on something, you're going to see more development of that particular system in general. Like, the focuses of Discord and Teams are slightly different. Teams is designed for workplace communication. Discord is designed for gaming communication. But I would argue that Teams wouldn't exist without Discord.
Yeah.
So if they were controlled by the same company and homogenized into a single product, then that's one less project that's influencing the shape of that particular industry. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see a much less diversity of development. So I think that it's generally a good thing to have more players in the market, not just for the freedom of choice for the consumer, but for that particular sector to move forward in terms of development.
Yeah.
Right. Last little thing, I guess, is the voice actor for Kalthas getting replaced.
Yes, this ended up being a bit of a to-do a while back.
Whose jelly bean did he eat?
I don't know, but the thing that stuck out to me about this is that the story is virtually identical to Vic's.
Yeah.
They're
So-
both voice actors and they went through the exact same thing.
Now, what's his nuts actually has made it a little further than Vic did. I don't know if he got Me Too before Vic or whatever. Because the judge has ruled that. Say again?
Have to check the timeline.
Yeah. So he's actually made it all the way through the court process, and I don't think he got fired until it had already been proven that he didn't do anything.
Yeah. He was completely exonerated. 100% didn't do it.
Not that it mattered to Blizzard,
Not that it mattered to Blizzard.
which only really goes to show how exactly this process works, and it's not about guilt or innocence.
No.
It's about having a sacrifice to feed to the mob.
The woke gods need their sacrifice, if not in blood, then in careers.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter to them that it's not there's nothing to do with this guy. The fact that there are times where women get harassed by men, this has nothing to do with that. However, this is a man who can be sacrificed to that cause, and that's all that they really are interested in. And so they did. They sacked him. They replaced him as the voice of Kael'thas, and not for any real reason. Like, if you asked them, there would be no satisfying reason that they could give.
So, yeah, that's a shame. I think he did a really good job as Kael'thas.
It was merely a setback, and I hope
Really a
that
setback.
I hope this is merely a setback for him, and he goes on to much better things.
Yes. Somewhere else he can go and monologue for 10 minutes.
Oh my goodness, that fight could be such a pain because of that.
Especially when you're coming back in later expansions and the monologuing would take like 3 times longer than the actual fight.
Didn't his one in Magistus Terrace originally have a big drawn-out monologue too?
Yeah.
They allowed you to engage the fight sooner after a while because
And he gets
people
upset
just
when
got-
you do that. So, yeah.
I wonder how many healers tried to quickly run in the restroom or go refill their drink during his monologue and got back just in time to see the tank die.
Someone would have been popular that day.
I expect that this was a regular occurrence.
Yeah, I would say at least in the low triple digits numbers of times this happened across TBC's history.
Yeah, that monologuing. So yeah, he's just another sacrifice to the woke gods. Ugh. Do we have any
Yep.
good news to end on, please?
No,
Ah.
not
What did-
really.
When Kizu gets all veiny.
Yeah, no.
No, I'm asking this is a legit question because he's gone all red and veiny.
Him Zangi then.
Oh no. Being attacked by an angry penis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
You know it's
oh,
bad. Like, World did it with Pickle Joe, naming the quest Relics at the moment. They've done it with Kezu this time around. They've acknowledged the joke.
I don't remember what the quest is called.
It's not actually in the quest name, it's in the quest description.
I don't read those typically.
Nobody reads those typically.
oh dear. Oh, you want a white pill? I got one. It's not at all related to gaming.
Oh no.
A father who beat a man to death for sexually assaulting his 5-year-old daughter faces no charges in Texas.
Well, to be fair, Texas is one of those handful of blessed places in the world where he needed killing as a defense.
I mean, that's the only white pill I got. Everything else is terrible.
Oh dear. Alright, in that case, let us wrap up, shall we?
Yes.
all right. All right, folks. Closing comments, and I'll get us out of here.
I can't think of anything, honestly. I don't want to adult anymore, the usual one.
Oh, don't remind me.
Yeah.
All right. Either next week or the next week, I will not be here. And in the meantime, I will be adulting extra hard because I've got to make sure that I got as much done as I can for when I come back. I will be piled on by work because I won't have
Hooray.
been able to do it as efficiently while I'm not at the office. Oh, I hate my life.
Yeah. All right, do the thing.
All right, folks. I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye bye.